the EUB $40,000 director level number, right?
Hence my request for perhaps you would consider implementing this citywide and alleviating that that would reduce the number of items on the consent agenda. Doesn't alleviate that they're out. The reason why we're bringing in the consent agenda items is because they're outside of the city's current purchasing policy and procedures. So for the items, if you raise the threshold, it'll drop the number of items. I don't know that it specifically takes care of all of the concerns about the EUV, but it would take care of a lot of them for my purchase request.
So citywide would mean then the EUB would, or the Gardner Energy would then also follow this?
Respectfully requested.
Okay.
It is merely a recommendation.
Right, but the rule's already in place and they're not following that. I mean, otherwise we wouldn't have these special expenditure with explanations of how they're violating the law.
I think the discussion is whether or not they're conformance to state statute. They're following their policy, but Attorney Dank has informed us that that's outside of statute.
Right, but I mean, I don't understand how...
It's not going to fix that.
Yeah, I don't get how the logic flows that we change the number to still a fraction of what their director is spending. Why would they change? If they didn't change under the old policy, why would they change?
These recommendations are made to protect. Okay, so in addition to implementing an attempt at implementing what the governing body believes makes the EUB successful, a comparison to other cities, we also included things that we believe go with your strategic goal of fiscal leadership and protection from the possibility of fraud and abuse. You'd write a policy not for the people who are in the jobs, but for the jobs. So that reflects nothing on Cheryl or myself or Mr. Krawcheck. It is merely an attempt to cover all those bases, and this is what we came up with. You are certainly welcome to make changes. This is the recommendation.
Which city do we most closely mirror? I mean, obviously, I didn't see that.
So you don't, actually, even with that, you don't mirror anyone because you are the only city in Johnson County with full utilities. You are one of the top 25 largest in the state. You are the 7th largest in Johnson County and the 6th, depending on whose numbers you read. And among all those other cities, you're the only one with all the utilities, bookended by 2 industrial parks, geographically located next to an interstate. You have your own airport. Most cities do not. You don't compare to any. I brought this up during auditing services requirements a time or two, that actually this city is quite complicated, and you don't compare to anyone. Size-wise, you're larger than all of the big ones in the Northeast. And like I said, you're one of the top 25 in the state.
Prairie Village.
Prairie Village and us, that's the one that flip-flops. Depending on which numbers you look at, we're either number 6 or number 7. You're within a few hundred.
Steve, you have a question?
Yeah, I've got a couple. Laura, first of all, thank you for reviewing this, and we appreciate it. I know it's going to make your job a lot easier, Cheryl. We won't have to hold up on certain items to wait for council approval that are pretty critical to the future of our community. But I did want to kind of go over the end of Section 10, which is the expenditures by department. And you're absolutely right. One of the things that makes this difficult is the fact that we are the only city of our size in this part of the state that owns a public utility. And I knew that there was obviously there was EUB felt there was a justification, Gardner Energy felt there was a justification to have a separate purchasing policy. Personally, I think that's detrimental. I think that we need to be under a unified purchasing policy. I think it makes sense for a variety of reasons, not just the statutory compliance issue, but also from the standpoint of being able to manage our expenses and not have to have you go through 2 separate sets of criteria in order to be able to bring stuff to council for approval. So I want to make your job easier as well.
Appreciate that.
So I went ahead and did my own research here with the assistance of some members of Gardner Energy staff to get a list of expenditures, the breakdown of expenditures that fall within that $10,000 to $40,000 area. And
I did one as well.
Then you probably have the exact same numbers.
I think
you know,
we'll see what happens.
You know, but over the last 5 years. And so
I did the last year.
Yeah.
So it won't be the same.
I look back through 5 years of trend analysis to see exactly how those fit in. And what I found is that if the expenditures, mostly the vast majority of the expenditures that Gardner Energy incurred came in under $25,000. There were very, very few that came in over $25,000. I think that the most we had in a year was 11, and that's less than one a month, and
Well,
would be very easily subject to approval by governing body, and we could manage those very well. Given the fact that there is an additional purchasing requirement for a utility that goes over and above standard procedures that are under these other cities in Johnson County, it makes sense to bump up that number from 10,000 to, and I would put the threshold at 25,000. I've had discussions with city administrator and city staff to you know, and the other city departments could fall under a different policy, but, you know, internally, but I think that so we can have a unified policy across all of our departments, including Gardner Energy, it makes sense to bump that number to 25,000, and then that handles everybody. It handles every department in the city, and it makes sense.
Just a clarification, you're asking for director's approval to
For
move to
director's-
25,000? Okay.
Correct. So we go to 25,000, anything between 25 and 50 would be subject to city administrator approval. Anything over that would be brought before us for review and approval.
This is the discussion that you need to have with your governing body peers.
And that would take care of the Gardner Energy EUB concerns, and I think it would
Mostly.
allow us to have a single unified purchasing policy.
Just a quick question
Mhm.
for you, if well, and actually, Laura, you can probably answer this. I mean, if the Gardner Energy needed to make a purchase above $10,000, if I understand this correctly, they just need to understand that they needed to get follow the policy and then get approval from the city administrator, and they could get purchases without bringing them to council?
If you implemented the policy
Yes,
across all departments, yes.
Okay.
The only concern is that under the current ordinance that they're running under, they don't have to get city administrator approval.
There you go.
And the city director, and the utilities director does not report directly to the city administrator. That's going to be the problem you run into.
But it's not valid, so we don't really have a problem.
No, it's
Not.
you're talking about letter versus practice, and under practice, it would be very murky right now as to how day-to-day operations would take place under that
I
scenario.
mean, like, speed limits versus what you actually drive. I
Well,
mean...
that's true.
Yeah, I think that the bar is set at making sure that we're following state statute.
That is correct, and that's why I would like to have this bumped up to 25,000 in order to be able to accommodate Gardner Energy's purchasing needs. That would take care of that problem.
Would anyone else like to?
I think 25,000 is too high. I agree.
Larry?
Heck, yes. I mean...
I agree.
And in fact, I think we could, I mean, no offense, I trust you, Cheryl, but we have to make policies that survive long after, you know, there's always going to be change in you know, people's employment, and 50,000, I think, is that what I read? Or no, wait a minute.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, $50,000. I mean, that just, in my opinion, that guarantees bigger, more expensive government, Steve Shute. I mean, I don't see, I mean,
haven't
our
spoken
whole...
on the 50,000 yet.
I mean, the thing is, I mean, when you guys do the budget, that's your chance to make the case and convince us that these are expenditures that we can expect, but our last, you know, chance to avoid a catastrophe is to have control over that purchasing, ultimate control, and to say, you know, and I don't find it really that taxing to look at these documents on a week or, you know, every other week basis and make a determination as to whether staff has done their job in seeking the best value at the lowest possible price. So to me, it's never been a big deal. I mean, I'd be in favor of increasing both the director and the city administrator, but I think, yeah, 25 I'm definitely not in favor of, and I think maybe the city administrator should be in the 25 range. Sorry, again, trust you, but that's our job. I mean, we can't just give up our job.
Anyone else want to see the purchasing policy reflect a limit for the city administrator at 25,000? Tori?
I'd be all right with that.
I'm too.
You're all right with what it already says?
I would be all right to
Oh.
reducing it to, or increasing it, but only to 25,000